Aloha. I'm Lorna Takehara Strand, and I'm the chair of Oahu County Democrats. And I'm with Ian Ross, who is our Zoom and Facebook admin. And we're both very happy today to welcome our 4 Hawaii presidential electors who tomorrow will be casting their votes for Joe Biden for president and Kamala Harris for vice president of the United States of America. I'd like to welcome John Bickel, Mike Golojuch, Kainoa Kaumeheiwa-Rego, and Hermina Morita. Okay, so tell us, who are you? Where do you come from? And how in the world did you become presidential electors for the Electoral College? Let's start with Mina.
Hi, everybody. Good to be with you today. So my name is Mina Morita, and I live on the island of Kauai in Hanalei. And currently, I'm the chair of the Democratic Party of Kauai. I was in the state legislature for 15 years, and then I resigned that position when I was appointed to become the chair of the Public Utilities Commission and was the chair for 4 years. And I've been retired for about 5 years now. And so I mainly work in the North Shore Kauai nonprofits. I sit on the board of 3 nonprofits here, besides being the chair of the Democratic Party. And then mainly being grandma a lot to 5 grandkids. And I have an 18-month-old grandson, which I babysit 2 days a week. So that's how I keep busy. And I just thought this is going to be a really exciting election. And I just wanted the chance to drop that electoral vote for Joe Biden. That's the primary reason why I ran.
Wonderful. John Bickel.
Aloha, I'm John Bickel. I teach high school civics and history at Iolani School. I am on the Central Committee representing the Women's Caucus, and I've been active in the Democratic Party since I was a young Democrat back in 1990. It was the first time I entered the Central Committee. I've been an elector once before and an alternate elector once before. As a civics teacher, I think it's important to impart to my students the fact that we need to get involved and do things and make things happen. And the Electoral College is an important part of what students need to learn in my class. So I'm honored and privileged to be a part of this group that's going to cast the key votes to throw Trump out of office and bring us a new breath of fresh air in Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Kainoa.
Aloha mai kākou. My name is Kainoa Kaumeheiwa-Rego. Before I hop into that, just want to thank Chair Strand and Ian Ross for putting this all together for us so we could talk story a little bit about being a member of the Electoral College. In my day-to-day life, I'm a community outreach advocate with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. And while I have not had the privilege of being a lifelong Democrat, I've been involved in the party for the last 6 years or so. And have had the opportunity to serve with many of the people sitting here in various capacities. Really, I think for me, and similar probably for my fellow Electoral College voters, I just wanted to be a part of the team that got the next president elected. And I'm very honored, very proud to be one of the 306 electoral votes for soon to be President Biden and Vice President Harris. Mahalo.
Hello, Mike.
Yes. I'm Mike Golojuch. We've been here in Hawaii since 1981, and I got involved with the Democratic Party here when I retired. After I retired from the Air Force and had been working for the state, the city and county for a while, I got involved with the Electoral College because I'd gone to a couple of conventions and seen it and decided, hey, I'd like to apply for that, which I did. And I got elected back in 2012 for Obama's second term to the Electoral College. And in 2016, I was an alternate, one of the alternates. And I thought, well, I'll try one more time and see if I can become one and get Joe Biden elected this time. So that's why I'm here, and I've been involved. I've been a district chair, part of the State Central Committee, and other aspects, and just thought it was something to do and look forward to doing it.
Wonderful. Mahalo. So as we know, this is not really a college like what we think of colleges. And you were elected to these positions. And so I'd like to ask John, our history and civics teacher, if you could explain what is an electoral college and how is it that you were elected to serve as presidential electors?
Well, of course, the United States Constitution was not the only government our country has had. We had the Articles of Confederation in which the states had a great deal of power. So when they wrote the Constitution in 1787, it was important to include both state power as well as popular vote power. And it's important to know the first words of our Constitution are "we the people," right? And so there was that empowerment of the people, but there's limits on the extent to which they were going to empower the people. And so the people would vote for president, but they wouldn't vote directly. They voted for electors, and the state legislatures of each state certified the electors and chose how the electors are chosen and the manner in which that happens. That's important because, of course, 48 states and the District of Columbia have winner-take-all systems. Nebraska and Maine do not. And so the state legislatures have some ability to fiddle with the rules by which electors are chosen. We are certainly not a college, and we don't even meet in one place. We meet in our state capitals tomorrow. It's not just Hawaii, all states meet in their state capitals. The electors are chosen by the party. The Republican Party has a slate of electors. The Democratic Party has a slate of electors. And when people go to vote on November 3rd, or the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November, they will be voting for essentially that slate of electors as much as they are anything else. We all got chosen because at the state convention, we ran for the position of elector to the Electoral College, and the state convention as a whole chose us to be the electors and chose the alternates. And so that's how we got to be here. And we're a college in name, but not necessarily a college in its sense of education or traditional sense of a college.
Thank you. Most of us think that, the big election time is the general election. That's when we go and we vote for our president of the United States. And that the presidential electors' work is kind of, ho-hum, automatic, not that big a deal. Although there have been challenges in the past to the Electoral College system, this year seems to be different, exceptional. And you hear about presidential electors a lot in the news these days. Election results, even in Hawaii, have been challenged in court, and in some states just up to yesterday. And there are possibilities of demonstrations against electors in some states tomorrow by Trump supporters who refuse to accept the results of the vote. The focus seems to be very much now on you guys as our electors, now to ensure that this constitutional process is carried out. Would you like to share your thoughts? Go for it.
I'll go. Yeah, I think it's extremely important that people have confidence in the election process. And what we've seen for the past month or so, and even previous to it, is this whole effort of disinformation to suggest that the election process was rigged. And it really is a sad time for our country as we move forward. I think we've all understood that the Electoral College might be obsolete given what happened 2 times before with Democratic candidates, with Vice President Gore and Secretary of State Clinton, where they won the popular vote but lost the Electoral College. But I think, this time there has been an effort to discredit both. And, this movement not to follow process, procedures, the law in each state. So I think there's we should be greatly concerned about what's happening throughout the nation right now.
She's right. And the current occupant's trying to do it both ways. He thought he had it and had the electoral vote, so he was all gung ho about that. And then when it didn't go his way, now he's trying to figure out any way he can to undo it. But come tomorrow, I think that's basically, it's over, which is thank goodness. But the people still need to be educated. They definitely don't understand how this system really works. And let's face it, Biden definitely won the popular vote, just like Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. But at least he also got the Electoral college votes this time that are needed. And there's still a lot of people that don't understand it. And there's, again, and I've seen come up again, it's time to do away with electoral colleges. And there's definitely pros and cons about that.
If I might hop in, I think for me, you know, when you set out to do these things, when you ask your friends that are part of your community to imbue in you this trust, it's your responsibility to carry it out. And so I'm not sure about my fellow electors, but I've received many, many, many Facebook messages, many, I think some of them are bots, quite frankly, asking me to be a faithless elector, vote for Trump. And I'm just not built that way. You know, this is what I ran for. I was open and honest and clear about what I was going to do. And I intend to carry it out tomorrow. So fascinating stuff happening everywhere.
So people have been lobbying you to switch your vote?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
I didn't have that happen this time, but I did happen before.
Yeah. If I may tell my story from the Obama years, when I was an alternate elector, and I repeat, an alternate elector, and I was kind of strange. I received a huge packet of petitions, signed petitions, saying that Barack Obama was not an American citizen and therefore should not be elected, and therefore as an alternate elector should not vote for him. And what's amazing to me is that they spent about $50 in postage to send that to me as an alternate elector. So they had to send to all the regular 538 regular electors, plus at least 538 alternate electors at $50 a piece. Somebody was spending a ton of money to try and convince me that I should not, as an alternate, vote for Barack Obama, when clearly, of course, that was what we were intended to do. So some people think that they can sway us, but I think we're rock solid this time. And I'm very pleased that, unlike 4 years ago, across the country, we seem united in the Democratic Party to support the Biden-Harris ticket.
I'm glad John mentioned that, because that's right. I did get copies of petitions about Obama and saying that he wasn't, I forgot about it because I looked at it and said, this is a joke, and threw it away.
wow. But
I really, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't get contacted by anybody recently, but right after KITV ran a little story about the electors, I got trolled by a couple people on Instagram, and it was so bad I didn't even, I mean, it was like, I'm not going to respond to this and just ignore it. But they even went as far to look at all of my pictures and said that I was biased for Biden because they didn't understand how the electors were chosen. So their proof was, you know, posting all of my Biden pictures and posters and stuff, and said I was biased and therefore I should not be an elector.
wow. So then, given your dedication to doing the good work, what's going to happen tomorrow? What I really didn't, until I spoke with Mina on Tuesday, I had no idea that what you guys are going to do. So can you just tell us what's up? What's going to happen before, during, and then very importantly, what happens afterwards that safeguards your vote?
Well, we gather at the state capitol at 2 o'clock. We get separate sheets of paper for president and vice president. We don't check off a box. We actually usually have to write in the name of the person that we are supporting for president and for vice president, and we sign it. and those get put in an envelope. They get counted, announced, and sent off to Washington, D.C. to be counted by the Congress in January. And that part, sending off to Congress in January, is the important what happens after, because that's the key next step. And for those who want to challenge this election, after the votes are cast tomorrow, it's going to be hard for them to do so by challenging the state legislatures or the state electors. It's the count that will be the next focus of craziness from the Trump people.
That's true. Now, this time they did ask us to come a little earlier because of the COVID and, you know, being temperature checked and all that, which we didn't do the last time we did this. And I see they're holding it down in the auditorium because they just had it in one of the conference rooms before. And I do know, I remember now that we signed multiple copies because copies go to both the Senate and the House and the Library of Congress, and I forgot where else it goes, but it goes several different locations of what we sign.
Wow. Wow. Are you certified in any way in the early process before going in there? Is there a certification process?
Just an ID check is my recollection.
Yeah, that's all I remember, ID check.
So the party then sends the list to the Office of Elections, and so you're it, and then you bring in your ID.
Yeah.
And we are actually technically elected officials for this very specific purpose, but we all get certificates, the same that are hanging in the walls for the House and Senate. We get the same thing. Even if you're an alternate, you receive that acknowledgement and you're treated as such.
Yeah, a couple of months ago, after the Democratic Party's convention and the election of the electors, we received letters from the Office of Elections saying that, you know, they acknowledge us as presidential electors.
Great. John, you alluded to what might happen afterwards in Congress. Could you tell us a little bit about, I mean, we're hearing a lot of the threats from Trumpians. Can you illuminate?
Well, I can give you my hope and give you my fear. My hope is that after tomorrow's election, the president and his ilk will accept the results and shut up and give a good, decent transfer of power like we've had every other time in this country. My fear is that if they're not going to do that, that in fact, they're not going to be able to protest anything except the counting. So they will be interested in Congress when the Congress opens the ballots and counts the ballots. Because the people in the room are likely to be limited to Congress themselves, the fear would be on the part of crazy members of Congress who are really rabid Trump supporting Republicans who would find some way to try and vote against the acceptance of the count. But they're going to be a minority, so they're not going to get any place. All they, I think, can do is put on stage and make a show of their protest to try and rally their base, to try and pretend that this election is not legitimate, when in fact every sane person knows it is.
Anyone else? Hopes and fears?
I think John summed it up pretty good.
Yeah, good. Well, let's hope. Okay, well, we've touched on this before, and maybe we should attack this question head on. There's a lot of debate in our country about abolishing the Electoral College in support of a popular vote for the President of the United States. Briefly, how do you feel about abolishing the role you're about to take?
I'm in favor, and I support the compact. I don't know, Representative Morita, if you were in the state legislature when we passed the compact, but you might want to talk about the compact because it's one way to get around the Electoral College without a constitutional amendment.
Thanks for putting me on the spot, and I don't remember anything about the compact. Can you explain, John? I can't recall what was done.
The compact is as last I checked, passed by 10 states. And what it basically says is if enough states with electoral college votes above 270 sign the compact, those states will have their electors cast the electoral college votes, not for whomever won their particular state, but for whoever won the popular vote. So it's a way to get around the electoral college without passing a constitutional amendment if this is an agreement. Because as I said kind of earlier when I talked about how the electoral college came about, there are a lot of powers in the hand of state legislatures to decide how they cast their votes. And they can order us to cast our votes for somebody other than the person who won the popular vote in our state. And that's essentially what would happen under the compact to try and overcome the electoral college disproportionate power that we've seen twice in the last 20 years, right? In 2000 and the 2016 election, the person with the popular vote didn't win the electoral college. So it's a way to get around that process and have the popular person become the real president of the United States through the electoral college, but through this compact. Sorry to put you on the spot.
My recall is really slow. But yeah, I think, it's always brought up that this is to protect the rural areas and the rural states. But again, the majority of the population now live in urban areas, and we can't ignore that and see what's happening to these smaller, less populous states.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because, the original idea of the Electoral College was to give, spread it out and allow all the states have an equal say. Well, now, like you said, when you look at the maps and it shows where the people are and where they voted, it is definitely more in the urban area. And the popular vote, you'd think that's who should get the election, because most people don't really understand the Electoral College until something like this year, when it really comes up to play, and how soon they will forget.
I think it's interesting in Supreme Court history that we've got Baker versus Carr and Westbury versus Saunders out of the Warren Court of the 1960s that basically uphold one person, one vote. And that's, of course, why we have redistricting for state legislative districts. And the standard by the court is fairly strong that you really have to have relatively equal districts, even, of course, in the state senates of our states. They're districted not according to some geographic county region, but by geographic region that represents the population, so that the Senate districts are of equal population. That's upholding one person, one vote. That should be the same standard that we use for the presidential race, and we don't with the Electoral College.
I like that compact idea. I've never heard of it before, but I like that. That's good. I think that I'm very honored to be a part of it, and I yield to how we as Americans agree it should go. I think that I keep in mind, though, that we're Hawaii, which is the rural argument, right? Smaller states. But I'm sure it's true whether you're in the Electoral College or not. The math is we're still small. And whether we concentrate the impact in 4 people or if we zoom it all the way out to everyone, the impact would be the same. So I kako whatever we decide is the best way forward, just as long as we understand the consequences of all decisions, right? Whether we stay or whether we move away from it. I like math, if that wasn't clear.
Okay, well, this particular presidential election has been so important to all of us, and we've been working on it for 4 years. And the fact that the outcome has been so terrific for us and historic, and your work as a presidential elector this year in particular seems to be especially important. And so I'd like to take each of you to take a moment and imagine a group of special people in your lives, students, grandchildren, ohana, friends that you would love to share what this particular moment means to you personally, because it's deeply profound to me that this is a special thing you're about to do tomorrow. Tell us what you would say to these special folks in your lives now as you're about to vote tomorrow. Just tell us how you're feeling.
Okay, I'll break the ice again.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I think the party would be, and everybody else, all of us here associated with the party in different ways, we'd be remiss not acknowledging you and John and many of the people that worked to put the PPP together, the presidential, the party-run presidential primary this year. And for me, this is sort of the culmination of all of that effort to get as much participation as possible in picking the Democratic nominee. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to participate, because I felt like we all bring that with us when we cast that vote tomorrow. That this is the culmination of the PPP. When I was a legislator, one of the most profound moments for me was when Jim Dater, who's a futurist at the UH, said something to me like, you have a moral obligation to the future. The future does not have a voice. So especially as a policymaker, you know, you are the voice for the future. And like I said, that had a real profound moment for me, and sort of directed my path and career as a legislator and administrator. But to me, Joe Biden just embodies that. And so, you know, having him as president-elect and Kamala Harris as vice president-elect, I know my grandchildren's future will be in better hands. And it was a big decision for me if I should go to Oahu tomorrow, because when I return tomorrow afternoon, I have to go into quarantine, and that takes me through Christmas. So it was telling my family, okay, you guys aren't coming up here for Christmas this year. You got to make your own plans. And everybody was really supportive about that, because if they felt otherwise, I was willing to give up the position, but they said, no, go do this. So I'm happy to have their support.
That's great. Yeah, I was thinking about that. You did have to travel, and the rest of us are right here, and we didn't have to, except get over there by vehicle. For me, I felt both honored and humbled this time, especially because when I looked at all the list of candidates, and all very qualified candidates, the fact that I was one of the 4 selected, that I was very happy about that. And it is a great honor, something that I've put in our annual holiday letter and everything else, so others across the nation know that we know personally that, hey, I have this opportunity to put us back on a more moral, straight path, and to help people instead of complain about people, and to put we instead of I back in to the United States. And so that's why I look really forward to signing for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris tomorrow, because I think it's a very great honor, and I'm very proud to do it.
If I were to talk to my students, I would probably talk a little bit about the balance between things that are determined and not determined. It was determined, of course, that we had popular vote for Joe Biden. It was determined that Hawaii voted for Joe Biden. It was determined that we as Democrats would be the electors. But the slight undetermined part is that final step of putting Joe Biden's name on the sheet of paper tomorrow. And as much, of course, as I'm going to put Joseph Biden's name on that paper tomorrow, the power is in my hands to not do so, to be a faithless elector. I'm not going to do that. But that possibility means that there is a little bit of power in us, in that final act, in doing what, of course, we were obligated to do, what we're going to do. But the fact that there's not a gun to our head to be able to do that leaves a little bit of power in our hands. And so when I was getting time off from my school, I mentioned to my department chair what I would be doing. And his response is that the Republic is in your faithful hands. And to a great extent, the Republic is in our hands. And although we of course really are standing on the shoulders of those who put us to where we are, the truth is that the final act is us, and it's up to us. And it's up to us to be faithful, to do what we need to do and do what is right, and to get this country back on track. And we're going to do that, and I'm proud to be part of that.
Thank you.
If I had grandchildren, or if my grandparents were still around, I'd one, hope that they were proud of what we are about to do tomorrow. And two, I think my emphasis would be on Kuleana. I think I've carried myself in the last 6 years as a member of the party, and even in this moment right now, as someone that honors the commitment she makes. And I would want all of my friends, my family to see me as that person. I want my grandchildren to grow up to be people that honor their kuleana. As John noted, not everything was set in stone when we ran to be electors. So it could have changed on the dime. And I can tell you without hesitation, whoever would have been the Democratic presidential nominee would have been the person that received my vote in this capacity. And then a small side note, the fact that Kamala Harris is on this ticket is very important to me. It is something that I have always strived for, and it is something even at a state level and a local level that I commit myself to, especially to Native Hawaiian young women. I have been present and a part of many campaigns of Native Hawaiian men as well. So to see Kamala's name on the ballot is incredible to me. And from that perspective, I would tell my grandkids, my family, my friends, there's nothing you can't do. You just have to believe you can.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. I'd just like to mention that these 4 Hawaii presidential electors have never been together before until now. So this is their first kind of time that they got to spend with each other. And I think that I feel just so privileged to have been to share this time with you, and wish you well. You know that you have all of our hopes and dreams go with you as you go vote for us. And mahalo for your service. And thank you again and again, deeply. As you vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as President and Vice President of the United States of America. Mahalo, everyone, for joining us, and aloha to you. Aloha.
Thank you, Lorna.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Thank you, Lorna. Thank you, Ian.
Yeah, we'll see you.
Yeah.
See you
And
3
see-
tomorrow.